How long were you actually a prisoner of war?
42 months, 3.5 years, we were prisoners of war in the Japanese prison camps.
And you survived the infamous Bataan Death March?
I was on part of the Death March. Chaplain Oliver, I was our senior chaplain, and when the war ended on Bataan and we surrendered, there was a huge hospital, hospital number 1, I believe it was, close to old cabin. And there were many patients there who were not able to make the death march, and they remained in the hospital. And Chaplain Oliver asked me to drop off the death march and to join Chaplain Dawson and the Catholic chaplain by the name of Talbot. And we three served in that hospital during the days the Japanese were bombing and invading Corregidor. And I made that part of the death march, and then later on they marched us through the streets of Manila, and then when we went to Cabanatuan, they marched us from there 10 miles to the prison camp. So that was my participation in the death march.
Mm-hmm. And then I believe you were also taken to Japan on what came eventually to be described as the hell ships.
Yes, we were alerted from Cabanatuan along in October of 1944, and about 1,816 of us, mostly officers, we had some enlisted men and a few civilians, were taken into Bilibid prison camp in the old Bilibid in Manila. And we waited there until the mid-December before they were able to get a ship in, because the Americans were bombing all over the place. And it was during a typhoon area or time when we were able to get a ship, the Orioka Maru. And they loaded us on the Orioka Maru and started out on the 15th of December for Japan.
Mm-hmm. I've heard from primarily prisoners of war who survived the Vietnam experience that there seemed to be one of two things that really motivated or enabled people to survive the prisoner experience. And according to what others have said, people either developed such an intense hatred for their captors that they were determined to survive and get even somehow, or they developed or deepened perhaps what had already existed, a meaningful religious faith that saw them through. Was there anything similar to that in your experience?
Well, I guess we had some of both of it among our people, but I don't know, as being a chaplain and a man of faith, I never dwelled on whether I was going to get out or not. I always just, through my faith, I had an idea I would get out. And we stayed busy ministering as best we could to our troops, to the prisoners of war. And I think for the most part, really for the most part, men believed that they would get through. Now, we had a few who would give up and didn't make it. We had others who were killed and slain by the Japanese. I go every once in a while down to Fort Hood. That's a big Army base in Texas. And Jim, they're doing something down there that I think is most important. With the training of their men, they've called on the chaplains to train through lecture and interview and so forth the troops who will be engaged in war if we ever get in another war, and God forbid that we do. But they feel that the men, in addition to being well equipped physically and materially and militarily, they ought to be trained to have an inward strength. And so they've hit upon the idea of willpower and faith power. I think they go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. And as I go down there and speak, that's what they want me to speak on, willpower and faith power. I think it's true that people who go through what we did and get out had to have willpower, and they had to have faith power, trusted in somebody higher than themselves.